Her name is Claire Donnelly. She is 38 years old. 3 months ago, the managing partner of the engineering firm where she worked called her into his office and told her, in a calm and even voice, that she should resign before she ruined everything the firm had built. Her access badge was still warm in her hand. Rain slid down the window behind his head the whole time he spoke. What he did not know was that the resume sitting unread in her personnel file would, within 90 days, cost him the largest client the firm had ever signed. Before this story goes any further, if it speaks to something you have lived through, take a moment to subscribe, but only if it resonates with you. And tell us in the comments where in the world you are listening from tonight. Flashback in family hierarchy. Claire had joined Harriman & Vail 11 months earlier as a senior structural engineer. The firm occupied 2 floors of a glass tower downtown, and it ran on a quiet hierarchy that everyone understood and no one spoke aloud. At the top sat Gerald Vail, the managing partner. He was a man who valued 2 things above all others: the appearance of order, and the comfort of people who already agreed with him. He wore the same gray suit 4 days a week and kept a photograph of the firm's first completed bridge framed behind his desk. Beneath him, the favored figure was a younger engineer named Brett Caldwell. Brett was confident, well-tailored, and unburdened by detail. At Claire's first project review, she watched the room reshape itself around him. When Brett presented a load calculation that was visibly optimistic, Gerald nodded along and called it bold thinking. When Claire raised a quiet question about the same numbers, Gerald glanced at her and said the firm did not pay people to slow things down. Claire learned the shape of the place quickly. Brett was given the marquee projects and a corner desk. Claire was given the work no one wanted to claim later: the load reviews, the foundation checks, the long technical appendices that clients never read but inspectors always did. There was one exception to the cold weather of that office. Her name was Ruth Okafor, and she had run the firm's quality assurance desk for 19 years. Ruth was near retirement, soft-spoken, and almost invisible to the partners, but she noticed things. On Claire's second week, Ruth set a cup of tea on her desk without a word, looked at the foundation file open on her screen, and said only, "You catch the things they hope no one looks at. Keep your copies." Claire did not understand yet why that mattered. She would. Mistreatment montaged the pattern revealed itself slowly, the way a hairline crack widens under a building no one inspects. In October, Claire flagged a drainage flaw in a parking structure design. She wrote a 2-page memo and sent it to Gerald and Brett. The memo was never answered. 3 days later, in a staff meeting, Brett presented the corrected design as his own idea. Gerald praised his initiative. Claire sat with her hands folded and said nothing. In December, the firm held its holiday dinner at a country club north of the city. Awards were given out between courses. Brett received a crystal block for client development. When the partners thanked the team behind the year's biggest proposal, a proposal Claire had drafted nearly in full, her name was not among the 4 read aloud. She drank her water and watched the candlelight move on the white tablecloth. In February, a junior client emailed Claire directly to thank her for catching an error that would have cost them their permit. Claire forwarded the note to Gerald, thinking it might finally register. He replied with a single line: "Let's keep client communication routed through Brett going forward." The smallest moment was the one she remembered most clearly. One evening, she stayed late to finish a seismic review. Gerald passed her desk on his way out, paused, and looked at the calculations covering her screen. "You know," he said, almost kindly, "you'd be happier somewhere with lower standards." Then he put on his coat and left. The cleaning crew's vacuum hummed somewhere down the hall. Claire sat very still until the sound moved away. If you have ever done the work and watched someone else carry it to the front of the room, pause this for a moment and tell us about it in the comments. You are not the only one who has sat quietly while the credit walked past your desk. Inciting incident: the break came on a Tuesday in March at 4:50 in the afternoon. The firm was 3 weeks from delivering its largest contract, a 14-story mixed-use tower for a developer called Meridian Holdings. The job was worth more than the firm's previous 2 years combined. Brett was the project lead. Claire had been assigned, quietly. To the structural review no one expected her to finish. She finished it. And in finishing it, she found something. A connection detail in the central core had been carried over from an earlier scheme and never recalculated for the taller building. Under the full design load, the margin was gone. On paper, the tower was unsafe. She brought a printed copy to Gerald's office. Brett was already there. She laid the calculations on the desk and explained in plain terms what she had found and what it would cost to correct before submission. Gerald did not look at the pages. He looked at her for a long moment, and then he said the sentence that gives this story its name. He told her she should quit before she ruined the firm with this kind of alarmist nonsense. that Meridian would walk if the schedule slipped, and that one anxious engineer was not going to sink a project the partners had spent a year securing. Brett smiled at the floor. Outside the glass wall, 2 project managers had stopped pretending not to listen. Claire did not raise her voice. She did not argue the math a second time. She gathered her pages, said, "All right, Gerald," and walked back to her desk. That night she made one quiet copy of the file for herself, exactly as Ruth had once told her to. Then she went home and did not sleep. Strategic preparation Claire did not send an angry email. She did not call a lawyer the next morning. She did what the calmest person in a crisis always does first. She organized her facts. Over the following 2 weeks, she built a record. She saved every version of the core design, with the dates and authorship intact in the file properties. She printed the original calculation that had been carried forward in error, and beside it her corrected one. She wrote a clean, unemotional technical summary, the kind a stranger could read in 5 minutes and understand. She did not exaggerate a single figure. She did not need to. The numbers were severe enough on their own. Then she went to see Ruth. Ruth listened without interrupting, turning her teacup slowly in her hands. When Claire finished, Ruth stood and unlocked a gray filing cabinet that had sat in the corner of her office for 2 decades. Inside were the firm's signed quality assurance protocols, the documents every client contract referenced and almost no one read. One clause, initialed by Gerald himself years earlier, required that any identified life safety concern be disclosed in writing to the client of record before submission. Ruth had a copy of every protocol the firm had ever issued, dated and filed. "I told you to keep your copies," she said softly. "I have kept mine for 19 years. This was the hidden resource, not revenge. A paper trail and a rule the firm had agreed to follow. But there was a cost, and Claire knew it. To do this correctly, she would have to put her name on a written warning that Meridian had not been told about a safety issue. If she was wrong, she would never work in the city again. If she was right, she would be the engineer who blew up the firm's biggest deal from the inside." There was a night, near the end, when she sat at her kitchen table at 2 a.m, with the summary printed in front of her and her phone in her hand. She called her old graduate advisor, a retired professor named Diane, the only person who had ever told her she was good at this work. Claire's voice was steadier than she felt. She asked one question, whether staying silent would make her complicit. Diane was quiet for a while. Then she said, "You already know the answer, or you wouldn't have called me at 2 a.m. Claire set the phone down and did not pick it up again that night. What Gerald and Brett still did not understand was the rest of her file. Before Harriman & Vail, Claire had spent 8 years at a national firm, where she had served as principal engineer on a stadium, a hospital wing, and a 40-story tower, the kind of work that dwarfed anything Brett had touched. She had taken the junior title at Harriman & Vail on purpose, to be closer to home while caring for an aging parent. She had never corrected anyone's assumptions about her. Her resume sat in her personnel file, 11 months unread. She made 3 sealed copies of her summary and the protocol, one for herself, one for Ruth, one in an envelope addressed but not yet sent to the principal at Meridian Holdings. Then she requested 15 minutes on the agenda of the firm's final pre-submission review, where the partners and the client would both be present. Gerald's assistant put her on the schedule without asking why. It was, after all, only Claire. What do you think happened in that room? Stay with the story, and if you have a guess, leave it in the comments before the next part begins. Public reckoning the review took place in the firm's largest conference room on the last Thursday in March. Roughly 30 people were present, both partners, the full project team, the firm's outside counsel, and 7 representatives from Meridian Holdings, including its chief executive, a precise woman named Eileen Park. Brett presented first. He walked the room through the design with easy confidence, called the structure elegant, and said the team was proud to deliver ahead of schedule. Gerald sat back with the satisfied stillness of a man watching a plan complete itself. Then Eileen Park glanced at the agenda and said there was one more item, a 15-minute structural note. She looked around the room. "Who is Claire Donnelly?" Claire stood. She did not look at Gerald. She handed a single page to each person at the table, then connected her laptop to the screen. She spoke for 11 minutes, in the same even voice she used for everything. She showed the original connection detail and the corrected one, side by side. She showed the dates. She read aloud the firm's own quality assurance clause requiring written disclosure of any life safety concern, and she noted, without comment, the initials at the bottom of the page. She did not say the word unsafe with any drama. She said the margin was below the code minimum, and that as drawn, the central core would not carry its design load. The room was very quiet. Someone's pen rolled off the table and no one reached for it. Brett's face had gone the color of paper. Gerald began to speak twice and stopped both times. Eileen Park looked at the page, then at Gerald, then back at Claire. When was my company informed of this? Claire answered simply, "You weren't. That is why I asked to be on the agenda." She did not raise her voice once. She did not mention how she had been treated. She did not look at Brett at all. When she finished, she gathered her laptop, thanked the room for the 15 minutes, and sat down. Across the table, Eileen Park slid the firm's contract toward her own attorney and asked very quietly to see the full file history. It was Gerald who stood now, and Gerald whose hands were not steady. Consequence cascade the consequences arrive the way water finds the low ground, without anyone needing to push it. Within a week, Meridian Holdings suspended the contract and brought in an independent reviewer who confirmed every figure on Claire's page. The deal, the largest in the firm's history, was gone. Two smaller clients who heard about the review through the industry's quiet channels asked for their files to be re-examined. Brett's confident designs were pulled for audit. The optimistic load calculation Claire had once questioned in October surfaced again, and this time someone checked it. He resigned within the month, before he could be asked to. The corner desk sat empty. Gerald did not survive the spring. The firm's silent partners, who cared a great deal about the appearance of order, did not enjoy seeing the firm's name in a trade press story about an undisclosed safety finding. He stepped down as managing partner. The photograph of the first bridge came off the wall. Claire did none of these things to them. She filed no complaint. She gave no interview. She did not send a single message to Gerald or Brett. She simply went on doing her work correctly, while the structure they had built without a margin found its own load and gave way. Resolution in chosen family on a Sunday in early summer, Claire sat at a small kitchen table that did not match its chairs. The window was open. Somewhere down the street a child was laughing, and the smell of bread came in on the warm air. Ruth was there, retired now, in no hurry. Diane had driven in from out of state and was telling a long story with her hands. A new colleague from the small practice Claire had joined, a firm where engineers were thanked by name, refilled the water glasses and stayed for the whole afternoon. There was no crystal award on the table. There was a chip serving bowl, a loaf cooling on a board, and 4 people who had each, in their own way, told Claire the truth when it would have been easier not to. She raised her glass and said only that she was grateful to be among people who looked closely at things. Ruth touched her arm. The light moved across the tablecloth, and no one mentioned Gerald or Brett because they were not there, and that was the point. Her phone buzzed once on the counter, an old voicemail from a number she recognized that she had never played and did not play now. She turned the phone face down and passed the bread. Closing sermon, if you are watching this and you recognize yourself somewhere in it, if you have been the quiet one in the room, the one who did the work and watched it walk away under someone else's name, then this last part is for you. You are allowed to keep your copies, not out of suspicion, but out of self-respect. The record of what you actually did belongs to you. You are allowed to stay calm and still be right. Composure is not weakness, and silence in the moment is not surrender. Sometimes it is just patience wearing good shoes. You are allowed to let the truth do its own work. You do not have to shout it, chase it, or force it. Stated plainly, in front of the right people, the truth carries its own weight. And you are allowed to walk toward the table where you are thanked by name, and to leave behind the rooms that never had a place set for you. Margins matter, in buildings and in lives. The people who told Claire she would ruin the firm never understood that she was the only one holding it up. If this story meant something to you, you are welcome to share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight. And if you have a quiet victory of your own, the kind that took years and never made a sound, I would like to read about it below. End.